again, Dan Blakeley from Barrie 360 with What Barrie's Talking About. Here's what we have for you this week. If you like to hike, we take a look at the trail system in Simcoe County, which is getting bigger all the time. You know, you can pretty much walk from one end of the county to the other uninterrupted. We have found a new way to interrupt the Canada Geese that gather on waterfront properties, an ambush system that uses artificial intelligence. And if you're bored with plain old everyday ping pong with one paddle, we introduce you to a new game born in the basement in Barrie that allows you to play with both hands. But first, customer service from both sides of the counter. A lot of anger from the customer's point of view over airline flights, internet service, meals, you name it. And while customer service reps try to make things better, they can often add more fuel to the fire with their response. In his role as customer service advisor, Mark Gordon has seen it all and heard it all. Mark, my mom used to tell me when I was gearing up for a go with a retailer or a company that you can catch more flies with honey. I'm sensing we're not catching a lot of flies these days.
Absolutely true, and that's great advice. And that applies both to the business itself, the frontline workers, and the customers. A lot of times customers walk in with that attitude that, you know, they're always right and they deserve to get whatever it is they want, and that's not always the case.
Well, we grew up with the customer is always right, so is that part of that equation?
Oh, I think that's the worst advice ever. And you're right, it is something that's been thrown around many times. I believe that the customer is not always right. But having said that, the customer should be treated as king or queen, as the case may be. They should always be treated with respect. They should always be made to feel valued and appreciated in terms of the interactions. But a customer is not always entitled to get everything they want.
So what's happened here over the years? Because I think social media has a big role to play in this, where somebody complains about something and then everybody just piles on and then everybody's angry and then they all lash out at a company.
Very true. You get that gang mentality going. And what we often see on social media is one-off cases that people gravitate to and think that is the norm. Also, we have to remember that everything on social media, for the most part, is skewed in favor of the person who posted it. So if a person shares a negative experience they had with the business, they tend to leave out the part about how they acted. You know, whether they were rude, whether they were belligerent, whether they were overly demanding. You know, based on the post, they were probably the nicest, most easygoing customer ever.
Yeah, of course. So what are we going to do about this? Because I see people when I'm out and about in businesses, in retail environments, and customer service reps or sales clerks are bearing the brunt of everything. And often it's not even their fault. It's a company policy that somebody's railing against.
Well, the first thing I would say to any frontline worker is to stop apologizing so often. I think we've all been there where you call the business and you have an issue and the person apologizes and you go on to explain, you know, the stress it's caused or whether you're inconvenienced in some form, and they just keep apologizing over and over, but nothing actually seems to get done. So the first thing I would say is stop apologizing so often. You can apologize initially that the customer's in that situation, but jump right into doing something about it. Another great thing a frontline worker can do is share their own personal experience. So, for example, if you call up an airline and you're speaking to a customer service rep and you're saying, look, my flight got canceled and I'm stuck here, or I can't travel, or I missed my cousin's wedding or whatever. And the person on the other end says, you know what, I know exactly what you're going through. Even though I work for the airline, I had the same thing happen to me. As soon as they say something to that effect, all of a sudden they go from becoming an adversary to becoming an ally, because now you're in this journey together. And then right away, focus on getting the job done. Don't worry about trying to console the customer, trying to apologize. Say, look, let me do everything I can to get you back on your way. Or if I can't do that, at least let me see what I can do to minimize the damage to the situation. And get right to work. And the customer will gladly go along for that ride if they know that you are trying to help them.
All right, so we've done all that, and we've had a good conversation with the customer service rep. We still haven't achieved the outcome we were looking for. What's the next step?
Well, we have to understand a couple of things. First off, you may not always get the outcome you're looking for a couple of reasons. One, the outcome you're looking for may be unreasonable. So if you missed your flight, asking for free flights for 6 months, that's not going to be a realistic outcome. On the second point being that sometimes it just can't happen. So let's say you missed your flight. Well, the plane has left. You can't have that flight. It's physically impossible. So it can't be done. But what can happen is they can try to get you the next best thing. And if you're not happy with the alternatives or the options being presented to you by the rep, there's nothing wrong with asking for a manager.
I'm wondering, too, because the thing I see now is people often are not even trying to resolve the issue with the restaurant or the store or whatever. They're just going straight to social media and belly aching about it to get the crowd in behind them. And do we need to stop doing that?
Oh, absolutely, we need to stop it. And I see it so often in the hospitality or restaurant industry where someone will get their order. It's not quite what they wanted. They'll take a picture of it, post it on social media, and bag on the restaurant. And here's the thing, the outcome didn't change. All they did is kind of ruin the restaurant's day and got people riled up. You know, at the end of the day, especially now more than ever, I think a lot of people in the hospitality industry, they want to create a positive experience, and they want to be given that opportunity. So if you just call the manager over or call your server over and explain the problem, 99% of the time, not only will they be more than happy to change your order or whatever, fix what's wrong, but they'll probably comp you something anyway, just as compensation.
Good advice. Thanks so much for this. Is there a website people can go to that you have more information on?
Yeah, if they want to learn more or catch any of my YouTube videos where I'm always sharing advice on customer service and customer experience, they can just visit markgordon.ca, and that's Mark with a C.
Mark, thanks so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Mark Gordon is a customer experience advisor. As he mentioned, he can be reached at markgordon.ca. Ever been sitting around on a lazy Saturday afternoon with your friends contemplating whatever, and one of you says, "Hey, I got a great idea." Happened to Barrie's Ben Battaglia as he and his dad were riding out the pandemic, sitting in the basement staring at an idle ping pong table. And out of that came a two-handed ping pong game he calls two pong. We caught up with him at Kempenfest where he was showing off his skills.
My dad and I played for days and days through quarantine just to try to kill time, and eventually we kind of got bored with the standard ping pong rackets, so I started picking up different objects in our basement, and we ended up landing on, I ended up putting on those trainer's gloves that the trainers wear for boxers.
Yep.
And we taped a few ping pong paddles around them, and I started playing with that and said, wow, this is pretty cool, this is actually working. So from there, the idea kind of evolved into where we are now with two pong, where you just slide that paddle right on like a glove.
How long from the germ of that idea to where you are now?
Well, that originated kind of in the first quarantine, I'd say, the first lockdown of Ontario. So it's been about a year and a half to come to fruition. But we just recently launched in May officially. So our website's live. We're making sales now. Everything's live.
Here at Kempenfest, you have a small table, but it can work on a larger ping pong table as well.
We typically will play on a standard size ping pong table. This one here that we have at Kempenfest is more for portability, but we do offer these guys on our website. I find that they're perfect to take camping, to the beach. You set up some two pong. If you're done with two pong, you can play cup pong. You can use it as a dining table. It's a multi-purpose kind of table, so it's perfect.
Versatility is the key here, right?
Exactly, versatility. So even if you don't have a table at home, we actually do offer these retractable nets that you see on these tables. They can clamp on any table, a dining room table, any table you have in your house. So if you don't have one of a ping pong table at home, you can grab one of these retractable nets and they work just as well.
And how has interest been in this? How is it picking up for you?
Everybody that puts on these gloves absolutely loves the game. I've seen people from young kids to older grandpas and grandmas coming by with their families and their younger grandchildren play. It's easy to pick up. People usually are able to pick this game up within 5-10 rallies, and they're able to go back and forth with me no problem.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. People are used to holding a ping pong mallet in one hand. Now you've got both hands going. And I guess years ago there was a beach thing you could get with Velcro in it, like a tennis ball, and you had both hands going.
Right.
But now, instead of catching it with that Velcro, you're hitting it back.
Exactly. I used to play that game as a kid too, and when we kind of came up with these paddles, that was one of the first ideas that went through our minds. Like, oh wow, this is just like that game you used to play on the beach. But one thing I find about this game is when they're on your hands and you're using your own arms, it's a lot easier to control. People seem to be able to use their own hands much better than they are to hold a ping pong paddle and use that.
And is it gaining traction nationally, internationally?
Well, we're just starting here locally. We've got a lot of traction here in Barrie. It's great to be out at Kempenfest here and see people from out of town, Toronto, and different places of the province come down and check out our game. So we're hoping that after this weekend we really gain some traction and start spreading throughout Ontario and nationally, I guess, at the end of this year.
Have you had people come up and watch you play and then stand back and say, Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, people can't believe it. It seems like such a simple idea. Why not just throw the paddles on your hand? It seems like, how did we go through all of time without thinking about this idea? Ping pong's been around for so long. It really is just something that people just go, wow, this seems like such an easy and great idea.
If people want more information, they want to see it in action, how do they find out about you?
Well, we're on all social media under 2Pong Official. That's on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. And you can also check out more information on our website at www.play2pong.com. We got tons of videos, learn how to play on there, and purchase your own set of paddles on our website.
He's tough to beat, but he's up to your challenge. Barrie's Ben Battaglia taking ping pong to new levels with 2Pong. Still to come on what Barrie's talking about, hitting the trails in Simcoe County and using artificial intelligence to get the better of Canada Geese. Now this.
While everyone's buying back-to-school supplies, you're picking up concert tickets. It's Rachel with the Rock 95 concert listing. This Thursday to Saturday at the Key, it's Glorious Sons. August 19th, Scotiabank Arena, Greta Van Fleet's going to be there. August 21st, over at the Rogers Center, it's the Chili Peppers. And August 21st, at Bud Stage, it's Scorpions. August 22nd, Imagine Dragons, the Mercury World Tour is coming to the Rogers Center. August 25th to 28th at the ESSA Agriflex, Rock 95 brings you the Straits, Just Heart, a Heart Tribute, and more to the Barrie Fall Fair. August 27th, Bud Stage, Blue Rodeo. August 30th, it's the Bare Naked Ladies rescheduled show. The Last Summer on Earth tour is going to be at Bud Stage. September 3rd to 4th at the Key, it's Sam Roberts. September 6th, Bud Stage, it's the Black Keys and the Dropout Boogie Tour. September 16th and 18th, over in Cookstown, Rock 95 brings you the Gustapalooza Music Festival. And if you want to get ticket details on any of these shows, head on over to rock95.com.
Rock 95.
This is what Barrie's talking about. From Barrie 360, I'm Dan Blakeley. Already an extensive lineup of trails connecting communities in Simcoe County, and there are plans for even more. Another $350,000 being invested in 13 more projects under the Trails Connecting Communities program. We tracked down Nathan Westendorp, the county's director of planning, wondering if it's already possible to hike on trails from one end of the county to the other.
Well, Dan, that's actually the vision. Back in 2009, we realized that a lot of the local municipalities, 16 of which we have here in Simcoe County, which, by the way, is almost the size of the province of Prince Edward Island, all of our communities are blessed with a lot of trails, but we really wanted to put some extra effort and county funds towards helping those local municipalities connect the many communities we have. The focus of the program is really to connect our 93 settlement areas and the people that live within them, and to enable them to have more active lives, as well as it's a bit of a tourism draw, frankly. We have a great resource in those trails, and we'd love to be able to celebrate them with other people from around Ontario.
How many of the trails have you been on?
I've been on a fair number over the course of the past decade or so. It's probably beyond the number that I can count, but because of the program and they're growing every day, there's always new trails I need to get on every year.
And what are people going to find when they go on these trails? It's through wooded areas. It's nature. It's nice to get out in those. But is there anything special they're going to find along the way?
I think across Simcoe County, we're blessed with a wide variety of things. But I think the biggest thing that you'll find is these trails, and this program is focused on multi-use trails. So whether or not you're on a bike, you're pushing a stroller, or just walking your dog, that's what we're really focused on, providing the maximum benefit to the most amount of people. This doesn't really go onto the hiking trails. There's many great organizations that are grassroots and well organized to be able to take care of those, and we've got expansive forests that deal with those. But this is what you can find is the wide variety of natural resources we have. You might even stumble into a few lookouts and boardwalks, as well as you can connect to some of the great downtowns and the emerging and vibrant urban scenes that we have, and the culinary delights that you can find in some nooks and crannies across Simcoe County.
And are there little hints along the way if somebody gets a little bit lost and needs to find their way out?
We're working on that. We've been definitely providing our local municipalities with some support on wayfinding. We did a large initiative several years ago to really map out and to sign some of those major loops, but there's always room for improvement, so we work with the local Parks and Rec departments where those things need to happen. But we try our best to make sure people know where they need to go and where they're at right now.
119 trails as it is, and you're looking to fund about 13 more in the next few months?
That's right. That's how many projects have been funded in the past, and we're approximately $2.7 million in funding since 2009, and we're really excited about this project continuing into the future.
And how does the funding work? A municipality comes to the county and says, hey, we want to build another trail, and how can you help us?
That's basically a great way of saying how it starts. So they reach out to us. They know the program exists, and we have dedicated staff here who work with the local municipalities just to make sure that the projects that they want to do can meet some of the basic eligibility requirements, things like I talked about earlier, about multi-use and baseline accessibility. And we want to position every project towards success. So the way it works is we provide matching funding, 50-50, local municipal money versus county money, up to a maximum of $30,000. That number can creep up higher where you have two municipalities working together. For instance, this year we just cut the ribbon on a joint project between the township of Tiny and the town of Penetanguishene near their border that really enhanced where people can park and access the trail. It's called a trailhead, and it's a great example of two municipalities working together and the county supporting them.
All right, I want some advice for some first-timers on the trails, because a lot of people use them all the time. They know what the do's and the don'ts are. But if somebody wants to attack one of these trails for the first time, best piece of advice you can give them?
Take an easy one. Make sure you have water with you, and make sure you take someone along with you to enjoy it. And then most of all, check out the local municipal trails website or the county trails website just to make sure that you have a basic map of where you want to go. The basic advice is know where you are and where you want to go, and be prepared.
Nathan Westendorp is Director of Planning and Chief Planner for the County of Simcoe. Bane of anyone with a waterfront property, Canada Geese. They come ashore in droves, digging, leaving reminders of their visit. Some people employ dogs to chase them away. Others plant a line of pinwheels to keep them at bay. But Sybil Taylor and her husband at Landscape Defense System think they have a better idea.
We do. We've been working on this for a few years, and basically we can defend residential, commercial, recreational properties against the attack from geese, and we have a discrete, precisely targeted ambush that uses artificial intelligence to detect and then deter, winged intruders. Cameras equipped with computers take multiple pictures every few seconds. Then they analyze those images to see, is it a goose, to make sure it's not a person, not a pet. And then it sets off a water cannon, which scares the geese away. It's highly effective, very safe. And then, the sprinkler system retracts back into the ground. So it's very discreet. Your property looks lovely. No pinwheels, whatever. It's really revolutionary.
How quickly does it recognize that it's a goose and not a human or a dog or a raccoon?
It's about 3 seconds between the time it recognizes the goose and then activates the sprinkler. And then within 6 seconds, like the geese are flying away kind of thing. They might take a moment to react or run off your property or whatever. But it's amazing. We actually have through Wi-Fi connection to every single installation we make, we get a little GIF image that comes back to the monitoring station with every single activation. And you get a picture of that goose on your property being recognized, the sprinklers going off, and then them flying away. And it's so awesome for the customers to get that gift, because a lot of people have been battling geese for years. And once the installation of Landscape Defense is made, they're so grateful. They're
beautiful looking birds, but pesky as hell.
No kidding. When I grew up in the 70s, the geese were sort of revered, right? You'd see them only a few times a year migrating in that, V formation as they migrated north to the Arctic in the spring. And then back in the fall, they'd go to the southern U.S. And that honking sound was sort of a pleasant noise. But nowadays, after all the breeding programs that the governments have done in the 70s, wow, they are such a pest. And not just not just for people with waterfront property, but I've seen newspaper articles where they're going through subdivisions in the middle of a city and, wrecking havoc on city parks and golf courses. It's really a problem. And
they're really territorial, too. If you get too close to them, they chase you away.
That's right. They're quite aggressive birds. And so, it's a personal sort of journey for us. My husband and I, along with our partners, started this company because we've lived on Lake Simcoe for years now and have tried every contraption on the market and some homemade things trying to get rid of the geese, and finally we're having success. And a number of neighbors and even landscapers approached us because they could see something was going on our property. Like, how do you have no geese and everybody else does?
Jealousy set in.
Yeah, and so that's why we made it into an actual commercial entity.
We've talked about residential properties. Do you go bigger than that? For instance, there are a lot of geese on the waterfront in Barrie. Could it be used in a situation like that?
Well, this is our first season where we're fully commercial. Last year we were running test sites and we had some true customers towards the end of the season. But with COVID, our business launch got really slowed down as electronic parts for our computers and cameras coming from Asia were held up. So this is our first real full season in business, but we have mostly residential customers at this point. We did do some tests and research on a golf course, and that was, that's another whole market that we're eventually going to tackle. But for now, it's residential properties, people that for the most part have the worst problems when they have waterfront property, and we can install on ground, on docks, on decks, and remove these these pesky birds.
If we have piqued people's interest in this, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, landscapedefense.com is our website, and there's a great video there that gives you a total demonstration of how it works. But there's an intake form where you can kind of describe your situation, your contact information. You can also follow us on social media, look for us on LinkedIn or Facebook. And you'll have a laugh looking at some of those GIFs of successful activations on some of our customers' properties.
Fascinating technology you have here. Thanks for dropping by, telling us about it, and continued success to you.
Thanks so much, Dan. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Sybil Taylor is one of the brains behind Landscape Defense System. Again, she can be reached at landscapedefense.com. Well, that was an adventure, from hitting the trails in Simcoe County to chasing the geese away, learning how to pong, and how to get the best customer service. Hope you found it all helpful. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. Maybe rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Facebook and Twitter at Barrie360 and on our website, Barrie360.com. I'm Dan Blakeley. We're back again next week. Hope you'll join us again then. Bye for now.